Bitcoin with a nice little move to start the week on the daily chart. I want to discuss it. I want to break down, namely, the structure that is occurring right now, where resistance is, where targets are to the upside, to the downside. We're going to break that chart down on the daily. Most importantly in this video, I'm going to break down this weekly chart, and namely, this indicator. This is a stock RSI, quicker moving momentum oscillator, hanging out in an oversold area right now. But what's happening with this K line, the blue line, and that D line, the red line, very big. And I want to just break down historically what that has meant for Bitcoin in this video. I'm going to start here, though, on the monthly. I just want to point something out that is kind of just glaring in front of our eyes. So hit the subscribe on your way in. Hit the like. I hope you're having a good start to your week, and let's just start this video. So the thing I wanted to mention on this chart on the monthly is this. We have this monthly, the 20-month moving average, the green line, and the 50-month moving average. There's going to be a lot of headlines about these moving averages, the 20 crossing below the 50. There's going to be a lot of bearish headlines, but I just want to say something. When we get crosses like this, whether it's on the monthly, whether it's on the weekly, when we get crosses like that on a zoomed out time frame, this is very much, in my view, a lagging indicator. This is how I look at it. This is a picture of the worst happening. And I just want to point something out real quick on the monthly, and this is why I wanted to do this. If you just notice the times when these moving averages, the 20 and the 50, were closest together, mind you, yes, this will be the first time that this 20 is crossing the 50, but the times in these cycles past, when the 20 and the 50 were closest together, look at this. This really signified the precursor to the bull move. I just want to point that out. These moving averages converging close together. And we can even just go back here and we can look at the cycle before that in 2015. You can see all the way here in 2016, they're getting close, 20 moving average, getting close. We could say this was so bearish, it's about to cross the 50. And what happened? It was actually signifying that the bear market was almost over, and essentially was over. And then we enter the bull market, we enter the halving, and then we enter the bull market. So once again, I'm looking at these moving averages as a similar precursor type of indicator. Say, we're getting very close. Maybe the 20 does manage to actually just cruise down slightly below the 50. But with that, I think that will signify the end of just that bear market that we just moved through. Very similar to previous cycles. Just wanted to point that out. Going over to the weekly, and then we're going to break down the daily. So on the weekly chart, and you can see same thing with the moving averages happening on the weekly chart. Just let me point that out. We looked at the monthly, same thing happening on the weekly. All these moving averages converging. And this is what we see in previous cycles. That stock RSI, if we look at it, and by the way, the stock RSI it's a quicker moving momentum oscillator. So right here, we have the RSI, slower moving momentum oscillator, actually taking data from price, right? And really allowing us to see, well, where are oversold conditions and where are overbought conditions. That's what the indicator does. And then we have the stock RSI down here, which we're going to talk about. And this isn't an exact reflection of pulling data from price. This is actually 2 steps away from price, this data. This is actually pulling data from the RSI. And it's a quicker moving oscillator compared to this one, right? So that's why you kind of see it just up, down in a quicker fashion than the RSI. Needless to say, though, especially on the zoomed out, and this is really where I like to use the stock RSI down here, the quicker moving oscillator. I like to use it on the zoomed out because it really does provide some valuable insights. So what's happening here is not only is the stock RSI, if we open this up, the stock RSI is approaching and kind of trying to exit the oversold line. You can see that right around 20. But we have the K line, the blue line, just crossed that red D line. And I just want to point out, historically, if we zoom out on this chart, historically, what has happened? Let me move this stock RSI up so we can kind of get it closer to the chart. But check this out. Zoom out a little bit. So we're about to get this cross right here. Last time we got the cross was back in June. You can see that blue line crossing the red. And if you just look at what Bitcoin did in that moment, it was a power move, right? And by the way, I'm not saying every time this happens, it's start of a bull market or something. but I'm looking for just a power move of momentum, particularly above these moving averages, the 20, the 200 on the weekly. Now, let's get some even better examples. Crossing the 50, or I'm sorry, not the 50, the K line crossing the D line right here. Look at this, power move setup. Same here, the K line crossing the red line. Nothing crazy, not the start of a bull market, but is a power move on the weekly. Going back even further, even in a bear market, you can just see right here, power move. Right here, even in a bear market, power move. Now we enter different parts of the cycle. I think this is where it becomes more relevant to us because we're not in the middle of a bear market trending down, right? We're actually in the middle of kind of the bear and the bull, and we're preparing for the bull. And so if we go back and we look, okay, let's go to those bull market doors being broken in November. What happened right before that? Well, we had this stock RSI, we had the blue crossing the red line, and that was the beginning of the bull market. Then we have kind of the end of COVID, same thing. Just look at that power move. And then we have just this very similar, and this is probably the most relevant stock RSI move right here, whether it's this one, which you can see that was, right here. There's that multi-week kind of quick power move, and then we came down to the 50. And this is like right where we are, everybody. When we're analyzing technical analysis right now, that's why we're anticipating a potential 50-month moving or 50-week moving average to the downside around 24,000. It's in play right now. You can see a stock RSI started, the blue line crossed that red line right before falling to the 50. That's in play, but I would be very curious to see if we get some type of higher low on the stock RSI, and then we get another stock RSI cross at the 50, and then we get a power move to the upside. Because remember, going back to this cycle, and we'll never know, but I'm so curious if we didn't get the COVID dip, what this chart would look like. Because you can see this stock RSI exiting oversold, just moving away from the 50, crossing above the 20 in green. What would have happened here going into the halving? I don't know. Maybe it would have just consolidated back down slightly. Maybe it would have kept going up a little bit more. Who knows? But we are right here in terms of just cycles, time frame wise, and we're getting a very similar move to whether it be this move, this kind of small weekly move to the 20, which we should pay attention to, or this larger move, which might break us through the 20 and the 200, and that is the green and red moving averages. But now we take that and we say, okay, those are important because, yeah, we're getting the stock RSI move. We've seen that previously, especially in the last part of the last cycle at this time frame, and Bitcoin saw resistance here. We should pay attention to that right now in the short term. So with that stock RSI move, I'm looking at this area of around $28,000, right where the 200 and the 20-week moving average is. If we go to the daily chart, now we start getting a lot of insight into what Bitcoin's doing right now. So Bitcoin, as you see, for context, we've been tracking this very zoomed out, very long-term rising wedge. Bitcoin broke the lower trend line and has just been consolidating, right? We would really like to see Bitcoin just pull back to the pattern and break through and just call this a busted pattern, because we do have a target to the downside around 21,000 to 22,000. And we're not going to spend a lot of time on that, but I've said this time and time again, in my opinion, it's not even really a bad thing. It's a higher low for Bitcoin coming out of the bear market, and that is just something that's very typical for Bitcoin. Now, if that doesn't happen, we would see Bitcoin breaking above this immediate resistance. And this is where we are right now. As I do this video, on the short term, today, tomorrow, this is what I'm watching for. How is the daily candle going to close? Is there any momentum of this move? We're at the 50-day moving average. We have this trend line in yellow. It's a lower high trend line. And we have the 200, all in basically the same area of resistance. We're talking like 27,700 to right where Bitcoin is, 27,200. It's a $500 range of resistance happening right now. This is what I'm watching in the short term. If Bitcoin manages to do away with this lower high resistance and doesn't actually start falling again, we have I would say a more major resistance, which is a true lower high resistance in this entire consolidation. and that's a lower high Fibonacci. So it's the swing high that we had back here in mid-July to the swing low consolidation that we've been tracking gruelingly. And you can just see it's this Fibonacci retracement area. It's a 618 right around 29,000, just above $29,000 to a 786 around 30,300. That's the big resistance area. That's that more, if Bitcoin's not going to just tease us on the short term, but actually do something meaningful to the upside on the midterm, we will see Bitcoin just exploding through this lower high Fibonacci. But I would be very careful right now. Not only do we have the short-term resistance where Bitcoin is right now, the lower high short-term resistance, but if Bitcoin is to break that and make its way to this area of resistance, that's also a lower high resistance that I think we should be extremely careful for, because we have this rising wedge. It's not uncommon for Bitcoin to fall out of a pattern, kind of pull back towards the pattern, and then continue to the target. This could turn into truly the end of pain. This could be what the end of pain looks like, but it could be painful, right? And we're talking going into October, November, just to get to our target, and then truly Bitcoin starts just doing its thing that we're all waiting for it to do going into the next halving. But all of that could potentially happen within this green box, which we've already identified as the bottom of, or I shouldn't say the bottom, the end of the kind of accumulation of Bitcoin. And that's taking data from previous cycles when Bitcoin really just kind of escaped the winter and started moving up. This is kind of an average of that. So we're approaching that, and there's so much that could happen with Bitcoin, but I think these are truly all the scenarios that could happen with Bitcoin, and it's just nothing else we can do but prepare for these things. So in the immediate short term, I am watching for resistance right now. Target to the upside right around 29,000 to around 30,000. It's this lower high resistance. I'll be tracking very closely what happens. But either way, if Bitcoin starts falling now, or we hit this area to the upside first, I'm continuing just to, at the very least, anticipate this target to the downside, right around 21,000, 22,000. But we cannot ignore this weekly chart and what is happening on this weekly chart, because this is so similar to what has happened historically with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin truly is getting ready to approach this halving that we see on the screen and approach the next bull cycle. It's all lining up so nicely on the charts, everybody. I'm just trying to break it down as simple as possible. If you're picking up what I'm putting down, hit that like button for me. Your support really means a lot. If you're not a subscriber, please make sure to subscribe. Turn the notifications on if you're a subscriber. As I release more and more data, especially as price moves, I'm going to post more content, everybody. It's just I've been a little bit less frequent because price has just been so stagnant. So I appreciate all your support. Have a great start to your week. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.